All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And I kind of made a mistake. And of course, basically a week and a half before I have to drop the car off to get tuned, I made a mistake. That is resulting in me having to pull my rear subframe. Not happy about it, to say the least. So I made a bit of an oops, you could say. This 21 millimeter wrench is stuck on my car. So let me explain. This ball joint goes down through the knuckle. This bolt comes through the knuckle. I was tightening the ball joint up, and usually I use my 21 millimeter socket. I decided last night when I was putting it all together to use my 21 millimeter wrench. Well, for somehow, without any resistance, I'm just sitting there cranking on it. Without any resistance, I pass the bolt head for the hub. Well, now I can't get my wrench out. And it's a one-way ratcheting wrench, so I can't reverse it because all that wants to do is tighten it more. So I'm kind of stuck and I don't know what to do. So I think what I'm gonna end up doing in this video, and if you can't already tell by the title, that's gonna be pulling the rear subframe out of the car. This complicates things because I am on a serious deadline now, and I don't know if I'm gonna have to order another control arm, or I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finagle this thing out once I can get the control arm and the knuckle like off and on the bench, which I think I will. It's just I can't get a wrench back here to keep turning on this, so I don't know. But basically I'm in a jam right now and I can't take the upper rear control arm off without dropping the subframe, because you can see up there, you could probably get to that inside bolt, but you can't get to the back one. It's up there. So you really gotta drop the subframe down to do it. Now, on the plus side, my rear subframe was gonna have to come out anyways. I had to do the trailing arm bushing like you see right here on the other knuckle. I have rear subframe bushings, I have upper rear control arm bushings, and I have these nice new trailing arms. Let me show you the trailing arms. Now I've had these for the black V for a long time now, and they're getting robbed for the red V, but they're a really nice, here, let me unwrap them. They're a really nice BMR rear trailing arm, powder coated in a red finish, and it has a nice spherical joint right here on the inside, rather than that rubber joint, rubber bushing for that matter, that gets worn out on the rear end and generates a surprising amount of play on that rear corner. So I'm really excited to put these in. And again, it was another, like, I had to pull the rear subframe to do it. And as you can see here, I have, you know, a handful of bushings, like for the knuckles. I have the Diff bushings that go on the rear mount, so they got to get knocked out of the subframe. These are for the front. I've got all kinds of bushings still that need to go on the car. This guy is the Diff bushing, the frontward Diff bushing, and then I have the subframe bushings here. So now I guess all this stuff is going into the car, and then I got to get it all back together before it gets tuned. It really adds a little level of stress, but the upside to it is that once the car's tuned, like I said, when it is getting tuned, I'm gonna be out of town. Once I get back into town, the car's pretty much gonna be ready to drive. And like, actually I could try driving it around the neighborhood and actually getting a mile or two on it. And then we'll have coilovers to get on and a couple other things, and then we'll be able to finalize our handbrake. So the reason I had that whole assembly taken apart was because I was finalizing my handbrake bracket design so that I can get a some sheet metal ones made of like 1/4 inch thick steel, and basically replicate this 3D printed model that I was able to mock up the caliper on. So then after the car's tuned and we get back in town after all that jazz, we'll be able to get right into making a handbrake setup for this car and finalizing that as well. So we will be making progress. It's just, I was trying to just relax and chill for a little bit in the meantime before we go home in April, and before this thing gets tuned, I was just gonna let it be, but that's not the case. The V had other things in mind. So let me get this thing jacked up. I apologize for the lighting. I realized I moved, now that I have the car over there, now all my lighting isn't over there. Those fluorescent bulbs, they only like to work when it's like perfect air and weather conditions. It's pouring outside, it's humid, so they're not turning on today. And my bright LED tubes mainly light up my covered 3000 GT. So let me get started, get this thing jacked up and see what we gotta do to get this thing disconnected. I know we're first gonna have to start with dropping the exhaust off of the headers that I just bolted up, disconnecting the drive shaft from the differential, not a big deal. And then I think disconnecting a brake line, bottoms of the shocks, and the 4 bolts around the subframe that bolts to the car. And we'll lower it from the jack and start from there. So let's go. So with the exhaust out of the way, my handbrake cables are already cut, at least at the caliper, because I don't utilize that. I won't be utilizing that because, just because. So probably gonna end up cutting that on the car. Just looking around, I will be cleaning up and painting areas of the subframe that have a little bit of surface rust on them, which is kind of shocking to see for this car because the front subframe had like 0 surface rust. But when you're back here, you know, I think things have more area to get up into over time to just cause some corrosion. And you can see that crossover brake line there. We're gonna clean that up. If not, I'll just build another one to replace it. So you gotta find the brake line. So I'll disconnect the drive shaft from there, but I gotta find the brake line that I need to disconnect as well to ultimately free it all up and then take the shock bolt out from over there. This one is already out. And then I think that's all I had to do to then be able to undo the 4 bolts and lower this thing down. It's actually kind of easier than the 3000 because it doesn't have studs. They're bolts that go into the chassis, which might be a little more difficult when it comes to putting it up, but at least when it comes to taking it down, I think it might be easier because the 3000, I end up having to like do a lot of prying and whatnot to get it all lined up. But yeah, I mean, like, look at this thing. This car is so clean. Even like back here on the back corner, we got like a little bit of surface rust on the hardware for the bumper beam, but like, that's it. It's pretty crazy. Little spot right there, little stuff. I mean, this car has so many miles on it and it's old, but it's just ridiculously clean. Admittedly, on my black car, bottom of the spare tire well is rotted out. You can see this one has a little bit of surface rust starting on it, but it's like legitimately rotted out on the back side of it too. So that's why I want to do a spare tire well delete on the black car. I was gonna do it on this car too, even though it's clean. Still want to do it because there's really no need for having this in here. But anyways, back to it. Let's stay focused here. All right, looks like I got it figured out. It is these 2 right here. The rearmost one goes right to the caliper on this side. This one does a U, jumps to another union right here, and then jumps to the crossover line right there that goes to the other caliper. So I'm gonna get the wrench up in there and I'll get these 2 lines disconnected, and then our brake line should be disconnected, and then we'll just keep on moving. Jeez, Christ. All right, got all the bolts disconnected. Let's see how smoothly this thing will drop from the car. All right, guys, this is what we're working with for the rear subframe. So pretty clean, you know, I mean, it's definitely dirty, so there's that. But I mean, hardware wise, we're looking pretty good. No significant rust. We got a little bit here some flaking, a little bit of surface rust, but we'll get that all wire wheeled down and repainted tomorrow. And then we're gonna have to melt out these bushings, cut those sleeves out, hammer and chisel those out. It's gonna be a fun day tomorrow, I will tell you that. So I guess for now, what I'm gonna do is just assess. I need to investigate on how to get my unstuck wrench out, because that is priority numero uno. So I think I might just pull this whole upper control arm off. The lower, or the knuckle, is disconnected from everything. So once this upper control arm is off, I can pull that and the knuckle away together. And from there, I will be able to try and get that whole situation out. So we'll do that next. But looking at this, not too bad. We got a little bit of crap coming out from the bleeder here. I'll throw an extension on there. I've seen some people do that, where like they'll do a piece of rubber hose and they'll like kind of route it along the subframe like further, just so that there's less chance of the diff fluid coming out. We'll get that all cleaned up, and yeah, we're looking pretty good here, guys. I'm pretty excited to get this thing washed and, like I said, get these trailing arms in like so. Look at these things. Replace. You can see how cracked and disgusting these bushings are. They move by hand. It'll be a lot nicer having these spherical joints in here. And I think while this subframe is out, I have some CTS-V brake lines, stainless steel lines. I just don't exactly know which drawer they're in, but somewhere I think I have some stainless steel brake lines for the V that I never got the rear ones on. Ah, here they are. So I have, yes, all right, cool. I have the full set of rear V stainless steel Goodridge lines. So I'm gonna throw these guys on just because we're here, and they were supposed to go in the black car, but I have the front ones on the black car. However, not the rear ones, because I was gonna wait until I pulled the subframe, because I'm gonna get them out now. If you guys had noticed, I'm gonna put all the hardware with them. And yes, that's all I need. If you guys had noticed, I have another set of Revshift subframe bushings. I've had these for like 3 years now, and they are meant for the black car. So eventually we'll get there, folks. The black car will get what it deserves, and I'm gonna end up ordering another set of these Goodridge lines so that I'll have front lines for this car, and I'll be able to replace the rear lines that are supposed to go on the black car. So we're looking good. Pretty happy with how everything looks. Well, let's try and get this knuckle off. So to be honest with you guys, this knuckle and upper control arm setup is a lot lighter than I thought it would. I mean, it's all cast aluminum, but still, that's kind of surprising. All right, so if you guys can see, that is my issue right there. Now I gotta figure out how to get this out, and I don't really know how. I'm curious as if I can get a wrench in there, if I could basically just force it out. But let me get an 18. And it's all, oh, don't want that. I don't want to hit the 3000. So I don't think I can get a socket in there enough. Wrench though, now that I have some more room, I can try and force this bolt past. Tighten it back up. The craziest thing is when I was tightening it, I was able to get the wrench past this bolt. But now, I can't get it past the bolt. So it makes no sense. Unless just being at a different angle now, I might be able to just finagle it off. All right, I have an idea. I'm gonna mark the side of the bolt that it's on, spin it 180 degrees. We're gonna shave the top of the bolt down a little bit, tighten it back up, and hopefully, so right here, I gotta shave down just with the Dremel a little bit. I will spin it. I can see it there. Let me get the Dremel, shave that down. Wow. All it took,
shaving down a little bit of a bolt head to get this thing off.
These are the things that happen to me. These are the things that make me hate building cars. So here we are, about 30 seconds of Dremel shaving, and I would have just had this thing back together. But we have a way bigger project ahead of us now. So, oh man. Now that that's done with, I'm gonna tighten that bolt up and never use a wrench on the ball joint. Just use that 21 mil socket and shoot it up there. I'm gonna go ahead and tear some more stuff off of this subframe, and we're gonna jump back in tomorrow because I'm gonna have to go to the store to get some paint, some sandpaper, and whatnot to get all of this stuff cleaned up tomorrow. It is pouring rain. I don't feel like going anywhere tonight. And obviously I'm not gonna be outside hosing this down and cleaning and painting. So we'll jump back in tomorrow. All right guys, welcome to the next day. I've spent the morning melting out subframe bushings, knocking the inner sleeves out, and then melting the rest of the rubber off, using the Sawzall to cut the sleeves, and then knocking the sleeves out. So I did the subframe bushing area, those four. Then I did the rearmost diff bushings. So I got the whole thing wire wheeled, cleaned up a lot of any loose rust or anything like that is off, and now I'm gonna get ready to spray it. And then I got my bushings out, and once it's sprayed, we'll pop the bushings in, we'll be good to go. So let's rely on some good old YouTube magic here and get this thing painted. And just like that, we are painted just a semi-gloss black, nothing crazy. So it's time to get started on the bushings. So what I have are these Revshift subframe bushings and rear diff bushings. They're the same bushings that you guys saw me install on the front of the car. So we're gonna get started here with putting them on the back of the car. Now there are two different size bushings. As you can see right here, we have the larger one, we have the smaller one. Smaller ones go in the front, larger ones go in the back. And again, ignore this stock toe arm. I figured out last night the parts that I need to order to make my custom toe arms, which I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna make them available to other V owners, if I'm gonna start selling them between those and my dual caliper brackets. Kind of trying to make the decision if I want to jump into that or not. It's kind of a larger commitment to make. So I'm gonna start by popping this grease off, and we'll start by making the mess on these bushings. All right guys, we are all completed. I ended up popping that sleeve back out, greasing her up, and I ran out of that Teflon lube for the sleeves on the rear ones. We moved to the trailer, and we have the grave site of some more stock bushings. So in the rear knuckle, the trailing arm bushing is basically just a rubber insert. You don't have to worry about cutting out a sleeve out of the knuckle. So you just basically melt it out and push out the inner sleeve and you're good. Now the rear upper control arm, on the other hand, you have all these bushing sleeves. So as you can see here, I use the Sawzall just like I did on the rear subframe bushings. Cut the sleeve, and that was after I melted the inside out. Cut the sleeve and hammered it out. Some of these came out pretty nice. I guess it's a benefit of a Southern car. You know, you don't have all the corrosion holding this sleeve into the control arm. So what I'm going to do first here is my knuckle bushing as I wait for some paint to dry. And I'm going to do this without trying to get my hands dirty. But knuckle bushing is easy. and that is for the trailing arm, where the trailing arm mounts. So these tougher bushings paired with my BMR trailing arms is going to be a nice addition and a nice way to just stiffen everything up. So we'll get this one wiped. Slide her in. These guys are relatively easy to squeeze in there. And I got some excess, and we're just gonna. So we have our one control arm here. I got some nice fresh silver paint on them, make them look nice. And with these lower control arms, Revshift states that you want to have the shorter side on the inside. So we have our long side and our short side, so we're gonna do it like so. So hopefully these guys slide in just as easy as the knuckle bushings. So as you can see, we now have a completed control arm. I will be putting new ball joints in the rear here. However, not before the dyno tune. You guys know how that's going. And once the paint is dry on the other, I will pop those bushings in, and then we'll go hang these all the way down there off the rear subframe. All right, guys, lower control arms, I have them slid into the slots because I've come to find out that the bolts, the factory OEM bolts, the sleeves that Revshift gave me on the inners, although they were labeled properly, they are to accept 1/2-inch bolts, whereas the factory OEM bolts are 9/16. So I need to go get myself some new hardware at the store. I don't know, it's Sunday, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get what I need tonight, but I at least have them hung there. So we're getting there we have the trailing arms on, all the bushings done, upper control arms painted, and bushings done. The last step is just gonna be that diff bushing. I am so tired of doing bushings. I feel like I've spent the entire day burning, hammering, burning, hammering, sawzawing, hammering, bushings, and it is kicking my butt. But we're almost done. Got one last one to do. It's the diff. I don't think it's that hard. And then I'm going to basically hang the knuckles back on, hook everything up while it's on the jack stands there, and I think then I'm gonna let everything just dry and whatnot, and tomorrow we'll get it put back into the car, which is way quicker than I thought. I need to run to the store, so it's either gonna be today or tomorrow. I need to run to the store to get bolts, and I also want to do a vent relocation. So basically adding a piece of tubing and another differential vent further down on that piece of tubing to help prevent the leaks on top of the diff. Some people say it works, some people say it just relocates the leak, but I'll relocate. I wouldn't mind relocating the leak because the diff, I just don't want the diff to get all dirty and crappy. So I'm gonna drag the diff out, I'm gonna get it cleaned up, and we're gonna start the bushing process all over again. Okay, we got the diff bushing out. That was easy because it's like this little halfy guy. Ooh, that's still hot. Either way, I also decided while I'm here, I had some new axle seals in the toolbox. And again, there's another part that was for the black car that I was gonna do when I pulled the rear subframe. I just haven't gotten to it yet. So I'm gonna have to order myself some replacements, but here's the part number. These are AC Delco axle seals. They cover a lot of GM rear ends through the years, but that's them. They're easy. I just got this little pry bar and I put it in the top, popped it. I'll show you guys, I'll do the other one. I just filled this last week with some fresh Valvoline fluid. And here we go. There she is. All right, guys, check this out. We have a fully installed subframe in the Drift-V. We have Goodridge brake lines, Revshift bushings all around. Got the diff put back in there. We got BMR trailing arms installed, and we got everything tightened down. Upper control arm bushings, the whole 9 installed here. Even underneath, you can see I got the diff bushings are hiding up there. It's all good. Shout out Kyle for giving me a hand with this. It was truly a pain to do this. Even with 2 people, it wasn't the easiest thing to just get this all maneuvered up. So what I'm gonna end up doing is I have the vent tube extension on the diff, so I'm gonna cut that and route it probably like up over here. I might not even have to cut it. I have another vent on order at AutoZone that I gotta go pick up. I'm gonna top off the diff, get the axles back in, and we are pretty much good under here. Everything is tight. I gotta tighten the diff bolt, but that is it. Once everything is tight, back together, car's back on the ground, we are once again, you know, fitting within the timeline to get this thing tuned, and it'll be ready to rock and roll. And we're even that much further now that part's done in the whole build process. So I noticed that while editing this video, there were some clips that got corrupted, I think because of the heat the other day, and the camera sitting out, and the heat was causing the files to go corrupt. So it cut off a little weird while I was doing my axle seals and putting them in. And then there was a part where I showed you guys the red BMR trailing arms, and I lost it all. So the files were corrupted. So unfortunately I missed out on some things, but you guys get the gist of it. All the stuff is done. If you have any questions, drop them down below. I will answer. I always try to, but we're getting close. I gotta get the springs back in. I gotta get the knuckles back on after the axles go on, and we'll get her buttoned up. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. The next video, I think we're gonna be working on some dual caliper bracket stuff. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the direction we're gonna be going. And we are going to be in PA and having a car meet in a few weeks as well, the same week that this thing is getting tuned. So hopefully we have some content coming for you from good old Pennsylvania. And yeah, other than that, thank you guys for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, give me that thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.